Welcome back to 10 Degrees Warmer. David and I just spent a month in Bali, Indonesia. It was awesome. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about how much we spent. So I'm going to break things down by category, but if you stick around into the end of the video, I will also tell you how much we spent on average per day. And I bet the answer is going to surprise you. We're David and Robb, and we are taking what we are hoping will be a 4-year sabbatical to travel the world. We've lived in and traveled to over 75 countries and territories over the past 30 years, and we are here to share our unconventional life of long-term travel to give you an example of what is possible. All right, so today we're going to talk about money, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. You'll notice David is not here. Sorry about that. We are kind of in a transition this week, and so we kind of had to divide and conquer. He is working on another project. But for me, kind of money is my jam anyway. I'm the one who built this crazy, ridiculous spreadsheet to help us track all of the pennies that we spend. So today you just get me. So I'm going to break down all of our expenses by category, and we'll just jump right in. And the first one we're going to talk about is food, because we all like to eat, right? So we break down our food into 2 subcategories. One is eating out whenever we go like to a restaurant or whatever, and the other is when we eat in. Usually we're getting groceries. We like to get accommodation that has kitchens so we can do a little cooking on our own. Sometimes it's just easier. So for Indonesia, we spent eating out $231.72. Again, we were there 28 days, and all these expenses are for both of us combined. So $231.72, and then for groceries, we spent $217.06. So that's what, about $450 on food for a month, which is pretty good. As far as restaurants go, restaurants are really affordable in Indonesia and Ubud. There's kind of every range. So there's the little warungs, which is kind of the local places where you can eat, and you could get a meal of like fried chicken or roast chicken, I guess, fried rice, something like that, for as little as like $2. And then you add in a drink. You can't drink tap water in Indonesia, so it's bottled water everywhere. But once you add in drinks and stuff, you can get, a beer for like $2. Alcohol is expensive in general in Indonesia. It's a Muslim country. Bali itself is Hindu, but it's a Muslim country. And so like other Muslim countries, they put high taxes on any kind of alcohol. So it tends to be expensive. But you're kind of looking out on your budget end of a restaurant, probably like $4 to $5 for lunch, maybe $6 to $8 for dinner. And then you can move upwards from there. So if you want to go to more Western food, that might be kind of $8 to $10. And then if you want to get fancy and go to like nice restaurants, kind of the sky's the limit there. But there's lots of options. We tended to eat at the simpler places. We loved the warungs. For lunch, we might go to some Western places or more popular places for dinners. And then, like I said, we did a lot of cooking at home. I will say our grocery bill is a little bit falsely elevated because we had 2 special meals while we were in Bali that we cooked. One was Christmas Eve. We were there, and so we kind of went all out and we got some delicious tuna steaks at the store and some vegetables and potatoes and dessert. Like we kind of went all out because it's Christmas Eve. And then for New Year's Eve is actually our anniversary, and this was our 30th anniversary. I don't know how the time goes by so fast, but it was our 30th anniversary. So again, we did a very big fancy meal. We bought a bottle of wine, which was not cheap. And so like bottles of wine, just FYI, we like kind of a brand that you would find in the United States that's like barefoot wine, like kind of those $5, $7 bottles of wine. In Indonesia, they were like $20 to $30, just because of all the, they have to import it over there and all the taxes and stuff. So again, alcohol, if you want to do that, it's going to raise your budget quite a bit. And we kind of did for our anniversary. So we did spend, I think, close to like $80, $90 just on those 2 meals by themselves. However, it was very worth it and we were fine with that. So about $450. I think on average, we were spending about $16 a day on food for the both of us, which really is pretty good. And I'm kind of happy with that. Okay, next we have entertainment. This is actually pretty low for us. We had a really nice time in Indonesia, kind of just doing our own thing. We spent $16.64 on entertainment, and that was mostly entrance fees, like to the Sacred Monkey Forest. We went to the Elephant Cave, some of that kind of stuff. Just a couple bucks here and there, just entrance fees to stuff. So that was pretty low. We did try and go to see the fire monkey dance, which would have added a couple more dollars, but we tried 4 times and we were there in rainy season, and every night we tried to go, it rained out. So we didn't get to do that one, but not bad for entertainment. Next is personal. Usually our personal category is for like toiletries, or if we have to buy a new shirt or pair of sunglasses or something. We didn't actually do any of that in Indonesia. What I put in this category was $14.08, which I spent getting a 90-minute Balinese massage, which was worth every penny. I was almost falling asleep through the entire massage, and then I was sore for 3 days after. It was awesome. David doesn't like getting massages as much as I do, so he didn't get one. So it was just the one thing, $14.08 for the month. Next is local transport. So this is going to be like taxis and subways and stuff. In Indonesia, we spent on a handful of taxis. So we had to get from the airport to our first hotel in Kuta. And then from Kuta, we took another taxi. We got a Grab up to Ubud. We stayed in 4 different places our weeks in Ubud. So we walked to some of them, but some of them we had to take taxis. And then the big one was getting back from Ubud to the airport. Airport taxis are always going to be the most kind of expensive thing. And ours, they picked us up at 2:30 in the morning so we could get to the airport in time for our early morning flight. That was uncomfortable. But so, I mean, we spent under $50. Like, that's pretty good, I think, for transportation, especially because airport transportation is always, artificially high. Just because of the demand. And so $50 for the month, not bad. Our visa. So I do include this. This is the visa that we had to pay to get into the country. The visa on arrival is $35 a person. We spent $69.52 because we paid in Australian dollars, and because of the exchange rate, we somehow managed to save 48 cents off the price of that. So that was kind of nice. But you're going to have to pay for your visa when you come in probably as well. Next, okay, so this one is the one that annoys me, but our flight. So we were in Australia first, and we flew from Melbourne up to Bali. And because of the time of year, this flight was very expensive. It was $749.22 for the both of us. When we're talking about budget, I like to include the cost of the incoming flight, and then the outgoing flight will be assigned to the next country just so I can keep track of it. This one was very expensive. We knew we couldn't leave the United States to start this 4-year trip until after Thanksgiving. It was right at the end of November. We actually wanted to spend more time in Australia because we knew we would like it there so much, which we did. But the flights to get to Indonesia this was expensive already. It was like, what is that, $350 a person? If we had waited even one more day, the prices got exponentially higher. I mean, double, triple, the closer you got to the holidays. So we kind of had to cut Australia a little bit short, even to get this price. Just know if you are coming from like Singapore or somewhere like that, you can get flights for like $100 to get down there. But then again, if you're coming from the United States and Bali is going to be your first or only stop, it's going to be a lot more expensive. So just know we booked these flights, 6 months, 5 months ahead of time. So we knew it was going to be a ridiculously expensive flight. But for our purposes, that's what it was, and we made the best of it. And then last but not least is accommodation. So this is always the big one, and it really everybody's very different of what you feel comfortable with. But we stayed, so what? We stayed, I think, at 5 different places during our month. We stayed a couple of days down in Kuta because we wanted to go, like, at least see the beach. And then we moved up to Ubud for the rest of our time. We were actually supposed to go on. We were going to go up into the mountains, but it was rainy season and it was just raining so much. We kind of scrapped that plan and just stayed in Ubud. So we spent $475.36 for 28 nights of accommodation. The hotel in Kuta was a little more expensive. It was like $28 a night, but it was a nice hotel. We did not have a kitchen there. It was the only place we stayed at the didn't have a kitchen, but it did have a really big, nice pool, and the location was good. So it was a nice place. We were happy with it. And then we moved up to Ubud. We stayed 4 places there. We stayed in 3 different guest houses and 1 Airbnb. The Airbnb we did because that was for Christmas, and we wanted to kind of be in our own space. This is all planning ahead of time, right? So we thought, we'll want it to be nice and stay in our own place. But really, I will say it was not really any nicer than the guest houses we stayed in. The Airbnb, I think, was $24 a night. The guest houses that we stayed in, one was $12, one was $13, and one was $14 a night. And we stayed like a week at each of those. It's funny, like, coming in, because you look at all these places, and part of the reason we stayed at so many is because we just couldn't decide. We were like looking at them, and they all look pretty much the same, which they were. But they're all good. Like, we didn't have any issues. We liked every place that we stayed in. It's beautiful. The one that was $14 a night had a pool. The other 2 didn't. But like one of the other ones came with breakfast that was included, which was nice. They were all just guest houses. There were probably, between 5 and 8 other rooms in the buildings. But we kind of just were left to do our own thing. The owners were there. They live on site, but they were there if you needed something, but kind of didn't bother us. Otherwise, it was very comfortable. The rooms were nice. We had air conditioning, Wi-Fi, like everything was pretty good. So you really can stay for not that much money in Ubud, at least. And we really loved it. So our average price was about $17 a night. And really, if we went back, we would probably not do the Airbnb. We liked the place that we were at. Don't get me wrong. It was in a really good location. It was out by the rice fields. We enjoyed it. The people who gave it to us were super nice. And we had a good experience. But to pay more, we didn't really get that much more for, paying another $10 a night. So, your miles may vary. Just know if you want to do things cheaper, again, we were looking at places that had kitchens. That was important for us. If you didn't care about that, because it's not that expensive to eat out, if you were comfortable doing that, there were guest houses we were seeing for like $7, $9 a night. You definitely can do them cheaper. And then, of course, if you want to get more hotel, if you want to get out into the rice fields where you're staying like right out in them, if you want to be in one of the resorts, that can be $100, $1,000 a night. There's kind of every level of whatever you want to do in Bali, which is nice because you can kind of just pick to your own. But this is what we did. So in total, including our flight, we spent $1,822.88 for the month. And so if you break that down by just average per day, which is kind of the number that I look at. So my goal always is to spend about $50 a day on, accommodation, food, all the categories we just went through. I want that to be around $50 a day. That's how I kind of manage the budget. And so for Indonesia, our average was $65 a day. So we kind of went over, and it's all because of that stinking flight that was so expensive. If you take the flight out of it, we really only spent $38.03 a day, which is really, really good. And so I'm kind of guessing, I'm anticipating as we look forward to the other countries we're going to go in Southeast Asia, this is probably going to be the cheapest country that we stay in. We'll see how we kind of manage it going forward. But I'm really happy with that $38 a day number. But but even with the flight, which was very expensive, we kind of knew about that ahead of time and we were prepared for it. So I'm kind of okay with what we spent. Indonesia is not someplace that has to be expensive. It can be. If you have more money to spend, you're going to find a lot of luxury and you're going to find that your money goes really far. But if you want to keep your expenses down, this is definitely a good place to do it. And this is in Bali, which is probably one of the more expensive places in the country. If you decide to get outside of Bali and go over to Lombok or out to Komodo or, kind of those other areas. Well, Komodo is probably going to be expensive because it's very touristy, but a lot of the other places can be even cheaper than this. So Indonesia, great place to stretch your dollars, and it is just a lovely, lovely place. We really encourage it. We did do a video on kind of if you think you should go to Bali. I'm trying to kind of answer that question for you. Take a look at that one. And then just coming up, obviously this is our cost video, so we have moved on to a new location. I'm not going to spoil it, but next week's video will reveal our new location. So make sure you subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and check back next Sunday for our next video to see where we went. But thanks for being around. I hope this was helpful for figuring out, your budget for your travels, because that's what's most important, is you figuring it out so you can get out here too and join us, because it's so much fun. But thanks for being around, and I will see you next time.
Do